Welcome to Spooky History. In today's episode, we're looking at the Wizard of the Westbow, Major Thomas Weir. Open your eyes. At your feet are old street cobbles lined with muck. A growing hum of voices fills your ears. Sewage, smoke and sweat fills your nostrils. It is the 21st of May. The year is 1650. You can barely move. You're hemmed in, squashed on all sides by shoving shoulders in a sea of eagerly expectant faces. We find ourselves caught in one of the most formidable audiences in the world, the Edinburgh mob, and they only get this excited over one thing. Someone is about to die. But not just anyone. Look, here he comes now. Hear the mob go ecstatic. The man you're about to see executed is and will hereby always be remembered as one of the biggest political figures in the Scottish history. And that man is James Graham, Marquis of Montrose, former captain, general and Covenanter cum royalist, hence traitor to his old comrades. His war victories will be romanticised by Sir Walter Scott and John Buchan. He will be remembered, revered and panned forever. He is the big news of the day. Hung, drawn and quartered. He is the main story. But he isn't the one we're here to see. I just personally love the irony. What irony? Well, if you can hear me over the noisy mob, keep looking. Stand on tiptoe. Now spot the man leading the escort, taking Montrose to the gallows. Grim countenance, air of a soldier. See him? Good. Focus on him if you will. For he is the recently appointed commander of the town guard. What makes this scene so poetically ironic is that man no one's noticing right now is likewise destined for immortalisation in Edinburgh history, for crimes infinitely more horrific and diabolical. One day, it'll be he the crowds scream at. One day he'll be bigger news, and his legacy will terrify more generations than Montrose ever could. With that, let us leave this politically charged mob and follow our commander of the town guard back home, through the narrow winds of the old town, a peculiar wooden staff tapping its way ahead of him, past the rats and through the shadows, straight into the dark supernatural coils of a secret world. His world. The underworld. Ladies and gentlemen, you are now in the presence of Major Thomas Weir. Anyone of decent upbringing in 17th century Edinburgh could have told you Major Weir needed no introduction. His reputation already preceded him as a veteran soldier with a long military career in the Scottish anti-royalist army and devout Presbyterian signatory to the Solemn League of Covenant. This man was captain of the town guard. This is the man who escorted the great Montrose to execution. He was descended from the Weir de Veres, one of the oldest and most respected families in the country. His extreme devotion to Calvinism earned him such names as the Bowhead Saint and Angelic Thomas. His famous prayer meetings were apparently so beguiling they reportedly drew crowds from over 40 miles away to his home. So, an angelic saint. What could there possibly be to complain about? It wasn't that his mother, Jean Somerville, was reputedly a clairvoyant, or that in the town guard he was known for cruelty towards prisoners. It wasn't that his animated preaching bordered on the maniacal, nor that he reinforced the faith of married women, visiting only when their husbands were out. Indeed, any allegations of indecent conduct on his part were quickly swept under the rug, with a whipping in store for the female who dared slander such a respected man. That sinister cane or staff of his was difficult to miss, though. Creepy, topped with a carved human head, the Major went nowhere without it. Tap, tap, tap. It followed along on the cobbles wherever he walked. Followed? Or led? Either way, everything was about to change. Trouble is, go around shouting you're a devil worshipper today, people, after laughing, call you mad. Go around shouting you're a devil worshipper in the 1600s, people would still call you mad for openly signing your death warrant with your big mouth, witch or no witch. By 1670, Major Weir was comfortably retired and residing in the Westbow by the grass market with his spinster sister, Jean Griselle Weir, only a few years his junior. Accounts vary as to the manner in which one day, without warning, he decided to throw 70 years of his respected name into the gutter. Some reports say he suddenly stood up in the middle of a church service and blurted his confessions before the heavens and gape-mouthed congregation. Others say it was during one of his frequent prayer meetings, but a more reliable version states it was on his sickbed during a serious illness. So shocking was his sudden confession, and from one of Edinburgh's model citizens, for God's sake, it's hardly surprising these crimes of a most revolting nature were at first put down as delirium or insanity. The Lord Provost Abbot's Hall immediately sent for doctors to evaluate his mental health. Even so, there was no silencing the man's ravings, and he sought no forgiveness for his crimes. But what crimes, you ask? Well, let's run down a quick list. Decades of a double life spent as an occultist, witch and criminal. Bestiality with a cow and mare. Many adulterous fornications. Not to mention incest with his sister Griselle, whom he also named a witch. Now that's already quite bad enough, and accusing his sister too, the poor lady. Or, really? Think that was bad? Well, grab yourself some popcorn, my friends, sit back and just listen to what this sisterly piece of work had to add. When questioned, Griselle not only corroborated everything her brother confessed, but rambled a seemingly endless list of further atrocities, including her dealings with the Queen of the Fairies, necromancy and the use of a demonic familiar, that their late mother was likewise a witch, a compact with the devil between her brother and herself, after which Satan stamped a horseshoe mark on her forehead and treated the Weirs to a lengthy return trip to a faraway town in a hellish coach of 6 horses made entirely of fire. And upon this compact with the devil, she and her brother each received a special gift to seal the bargain. For Griselle, a huge quantity of yarn to spin for profit. For Thomas, that very same, very creepy wooden staff we've already mentioned. Griselle said, if he, Thomas, chances to get it into his hands, he would certainly drive them all out of doors, notwithstanding all the resistance they could make, and that he did many wondrous things with it. Particularly, that he used to lean upon it in his hypocritical prayers. She told authorities the accursed item essentially had a mind of its own, that it literally followed ahead of Weir in the dark streets, enabled and empowered all of Weir's dark magic, and she specifically warned them he could only be safely imprisoned once the staff was taken beyond his reach. Insanity or not, there was nothing else to do but arrest an imprisoned brother and sister in the Edinburgh toll booth. Their trial took place on the 9th of April 1670. Griselle was charged with sorcery and witchcraft, and conversing with a familiar spirit. But incidentally, none of the formal charges brought against Thomas Weir made any direct reference to witchcraft. Officially, he was tried with incest, bestiality and adultery. Perhaps either the law still took his ravings as a sign of lunacy, or this was a last-ditch attempt at saving face to protect the public image of his class, as one does. Apart from the testimony of their sister Margaret, that she had once caught Thomas and Griselle in the same bed in their birthday suits, the only real evidence was their freely given confessions. A boring day for the jail torturer. No persuasion required, no thumbscrews, nothing. Despite the reduced charges against Weir, his persistence quickly landed the siblings a verdict of guilty. Thomas Weir was sentenced to be garroted then burned at the stake on a road bordering Edinburgh and Leith called Gallow Lee, aka Gallows Field. When that day arrived in April 1670, Major Weir, Angelic Thomas, the bowhead saint, was urged to pray for forgiveness. This is what he replied. "Let me alone, I will not. I have lived as a beast and I must die as a beast." And so he was strangled, then burned, and that demonic wooden staff thrown into the flames with him. But something wasn't right. Wood should burn. The flames were fierce. A silly amount of time passed, and still the accursed staff, gifted from Satan himself, would not burn. The mob was alarmed. They watched and stared until their eyes nearly wept in the flames' glare. Then something happened. It moved. It twisted. It turned and coiled in the intense heat. That carved human face? Did it contort? The wooden staff burned abnormally slowly, according to witnesses, and some later said the carved face wailed in agony. Griselle met her end next with a hanging in the grass market, but not without adding her own personal spice to the event by attempting a very uninvited full-body strip before God and the mob of hapless onlookers. Shrub Hill is where their remains were laid to rest. Major Weir, saint, soldier, model citizen, occultist, warlock, witch, wizard, or textbook case of a complete mental breakdown, genetically shared at that. True, that makes it easily explainable, but they left an echo behind, one that refused to go away. Their house, even the very spot on which it stood, said to be haunted and possess evil charms. It contained a bewitched staircase that always gave visitors the sensation of descending instead of climbing. Disembodied eyes were seen at the windows, animalistic laughing, strange lights and unnatural outlines of shrieking figures moved inside. This house terrified people, so much that it was over 100 years before anyone dared live there again. The, by now very cheap, house was eventually purchased by ex-soldier William Petullo and his wife in 1780. They lasted one night. Accounts say husband and wife fled in terror before the sun was even up, because after every horror you've heard surrounding Major Weir, and every terror told of the house since 1670, can you even guess what awful thing must have greeted them in the middle of the night, staring fixedly from the bottom of their bed? a calf. Yep. Variations aside, that detail features most consistently in all historic accounts. One ghostly baby cow, probably still pissed off from Weir's bestial leanings. That was the last time any living person inhabited the property. Finally, the house was torn down in 1830 and the world was rid of it, but not of the stories. For to this day the spot remains a feared part of Old Town folklore, as do tales of a staff without an owner tapping its way along the cobbles, searching for its bygone major, the most famous witch in Edinburgh. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Spooky History. Don't forget to share and comment, give us a like on Facebook, a follow on Twitter and a sub on YouTube. We're even on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for episode topics, leave them below. You can support us on Patreon, where you will get early access to videos, as well as the entire Noisy Ghost catalogue of work. Sign up at patreon.com/noisyghostends. Thank you for watching, and please, do have nightmares. Goodbye.